It's the Thanksgiving edition of the Coach's Corner here on Rivalry Family Media. Thanksgiving week is upon us in 2021. Great to have you along with us for another edition of Coach's Corner. Todd Robbins joined as always by Leominster High School head coach Devin Gates as we get set to preview the 140th meeting of Leominster and Fitchburg, the 115th Thanksgiving Day Classic. We'll have it all for you and all your broadcast and participation information coming up with this game that it will be held at Crocker Field on Thanksgiving morning, Thursday, November the 25th. As always, historically, with a 10 o'clock kickoff. Coach, here we are. We've reached the end of a 12-week odyssey to get to this place. And it seems like no matter how we change what goes on between the camp and Thanksgiving and whatever playoff format that we come up with and whatever people say about what Thanksgiving means or it doesn't, we reach this point every single year, COVID notwithstanding, and we reach this place where we all look and go, yep, it's that season again. You could feel it. You could start to get that excitement again. And no matter what happened with the two schools to get to this place, everybody is jazzed up for what will be the biggest game of the year. And that will be this game coming up on this Thanksgiving Thursday.
Yeah, we're excited about it. I mean, it's been a long season. I think playing them first and again, now getting another shot to play them again. And, maybe, you go out there and play better than we did the first game. We get a chance to kind of right the ship there and, have a second shot at it. Our guys are really excited for that. So we're going to work hard. And, it's, like I said, it's been a long season. We've had some, spots where we've really, executed well, some where we haven't. But like you said, all that kind of goes out the window at this point now. It's a 1-game season and our guys are pretty amped for it.
Been spending some time obviously in preparing some of our specials and looking at some of the old newspaper clippings from the 30s and 40s and then on into the 60s and 70s. And what always strikes me about, and of course, when you look at a table of games, you can see the fit spurts trends, but also how the teams were, maybe didn't have great regular seasons or maybe, and this was in an era really before playoffs even existed, where the idea was just win as many football games as you could. And you ended your season on Thanksgiving with a big matchup against your crosstown rival. And you did legitimately have teams that were middle of the road or less than 500 in some years in both communities. And they led to really exciting football games. There is just something about this region and this time. And no matter, I think, what gets said and what people think about how things have evolved to this place in 2021, it sure feels like to me, it all kind of gets trumped once you get to the actual time period when the game has to happen.
For sure. I mean, you've been doing this long enough. I've been around it long enough to know that, no matter where you stand in terms of your record, in terms of the season that you had, that, you got that last shot and, it's cliche, but really anything can happen. Fitchburg knows that. We know it. It's you have to come out and play your best to give you your best shot. It's not anything that's going to be a foregone conclusion because you're going to have guys that step up, that make a name for themselves that maybe we haven't heard a lot, in the last couple of years or during this season. There's going to be someone that comes out and shines and does something special, and guys rise to the occasion for this game, both sides, and it's going to be exciting. You really can't wait for that morning.
Looking forward to that. Let's take a look at a little bit more of a retrospective look of the last 10 games, if you will, the 11, 12 weeks that we've, been in this 2021 football season. And let's go all the way back, even before week 1, obviously, before you played Fitchburg for the 139th time. Let's talk about kind of where you were expectation-wise versus where you find yourself today. At that point in time, signs were pointing to things trending in the right direction. A team that was, starting at a place that felt more positive, that maybe it had advanced beyond where it was in that COVID modified season. There was hope essentially springing eternal in, kind of the start of the year, as I feel like every season begins. As you look at the travel of the way this year began, where it was seemingly a couple of losses, a win, a couple more losses, a win, a few losses and a win, and then obviously a loss going into this game. As you looked at kind of that very up and down trend, what do you attribute that kind of trend line to?
It's tough to say, Todd. We've had to adapt offensively to the players we've had available to us each week, and that's not something that I'm a huge fan of. I think we've done it kind of by survival a little bit, and making sure that we're putting the guys that we feel are going to give us the best chance to move the ball, to score points, in the right positions. And that's anytime you do that and you kind of move things around, it kind of limits the depth that you can go into that playbook. So we've tried to do our best there in creating something where we can be dynamic, both run and pass. And our execution, it's still improving. It's not where we want it to be. Defensively, we've played really, really well at times. We've had some games where we've had some key guys out, especially, against Wachusett was a tough game where we had, I know that, we had, 9 out of our 13 linemen, for varsity that weren't available to us. And, that's, certainly a game where you don't want to have that situation happen against Wachusett. We play a tough schedule. We played, the 2 Division I teams in Shrewsbury and Wachusett. And, the rest of our schedule is pretty tough too. Doherty's always got a good football team. Algonquin had, probably one of their better years that they've had in a while. And, we have to do a better job of matching up with those teams and, and dialing stuff up. It's, it's a grind. Our guys know this too. And, we just have to be more consistent across the board and have, some more stability, offensively and defensively.
And that certainly proves the point. Something you said to me before we went on the air dawned this question on me. And this is, about the differences in the types of teams that you play. And I would say what struck me when you said it was, when I think about these teams, not even, 3, 4, 5 years ago, the styles of offense that a lot of these schools played were more spread. There was more passing involved. I feel like in a lot of ways, at least in 2021, it has almost reverted to maybe that late 90s, early 2000s, very run heavy offenses that we're seeing all across the region. I mean, I just looked down the roster. Obviously, Fitchburg has gone much more to a power eye game that they had played historically, is back this year. Doherty, which was a team that used to bomb the ball all over the field, was a team that was very run centric this year. Neshoba, run centric. Shepherd Hill, Westboro, typically run centric football teams. Algonquin, probably split back and forth between those two. Wachusett always run heavy. Shrewsbury maybe a 50-50. You played Worcester Tech and Marlboro, both run heavy teams. You had a much more run-centric season for your defense to match up against than maybe you would have seen in the previous 5 years to that.
For sure, and that that takes a toll on the team. Our biggest team strength is our speed, I believe. And it's we have some guys that are undersized. It doesn't mean that they don't have the heart to go and play at those spots and they're not trying. We certainly have some some guys that are they're playing above and beyond what their capabilities are right now. They're trying to really make stuff happen there. But I think we're limited size, but by size a little bit, at least compared to the teams that we're playing, right? The Wachusetts, the Shepherd Hills of the world, they always seem to find these these huge linemen, and it's just that's not what our team is made of right now at the moment. And we'd love to have it. But we have a lot of fire hydrant type players that are can be strong and stout in there, and they're quick off the ball. But it can get tough and he can get worn down playing some of those teams that run the ball as much as we've seen. So we have to find a way moving forward. How do we account for that in the practice week? How do we make sure that we're at our best physically when we play these teams and we're ready to match up if we are undersized? So again, a learning curve this year too with playing this type of team, this schedule that's really run heavy. And we just got to look at it as a coaching staff in the off season and what we can do to put ourselves in a better position to stop teams and be able to move the ball better.
Seeing that overall more global philosophy change, across the board in high school athletics and in high school football in, central Massachusetts this year, do you think that's a product of the COVID year changing the dynamic, playing in the same calendar year, 2 seasons, even if one was shortened? Or do you think that maybe the idea, the evolution, the coaching style is changing and maybe reverting back toward a game that was a little more, again, late 90s, early 2000s, much more about a run heavy style of play with the occasional pass versus, what was a fun and gun that we saw in kind of that early 2010s?
I think you're definitely seeing a resurgence of, old school football, I formation, wing tee. I mean, the teams that run wing tee run, they're going to run wing tee forever. So it's, that's not anything new there. But there definitely seems to be a resurgence of, more of this power football, whether it's, a couple tight ends and a tailback, or if it's fullback, tailback, tight end. You're seeing a lot more of these heavy sets. Um, that's just been my experience so far in just keeping kind of tabs in the coaching world and what other people are doing. You're definitely seeing more of a resurgence of this type of offense.
It'll be interesting to see how as that trend line continue into 2022 and beyond as well. As that become maybe the hallmark of the 2020s is the time when football went back to the early 2000s. We'll keep an eye on that as we progress through. If you were to pinpoint a place in this season, a game, a moment, something that you would say would be indicative or summarize kind of what this year has been like, what would that moment be? Is it a moment in a game? Is it a specific game or performance? Which one kind of is the Leominster football team that you know and see every day?
Excuse me. I would have to say that the Neshoba game that we won, our first win of the season. We went in with, I think with a good game plan, and we had trouble executing, but by the end of the game, we really buckled down and made plays. We needed to make plays. And, those are the guys that I see every day. Those are the guys that, when we know that the chips are down, and, our backs are against the wall there, but they're going to step up and make a play and kind of take the bull by the horns. I'm not sure how many more cliches I could fit in here, but, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it would take charge and we're going to go take this game back. That's what we've been preaching. That's, the mentality that we want. And, and we've done it in spurts this year. We've battled back in some games. We battled back against Shepherd Hill towards the end and came up short. And we've fought maybe a little, too little, too late with some of these games. And it's really trying to put together that, that from start to finish game. But that game against Neshoba really, I think, epitomizes, the mentality of our team. We're going to fight, and time to make moves and make something happen. We got to go and do it. And that was the game where I feel it really came to fruition. And that had some carryover with the rest of the season as well, too. We learned a lot about some players in that game. So, those are the moments that we're going to look at in the off season and build on and say, hey, this is the situation where, we executed a certain way and, you guys, took the game, and those are the things that our guys need to understand and have confidence with and know that we have the ability to do that stuff.
And of course, you will trade out a good portion of players. It's not as large a senior class as you have maybe graduated in your first couple of years as head coach, but you will trade out a significant number of players and, of course, create opportunities for players to come. You'll get a first look at that with, of course, the upcoming JV matchup in Leominster and Fitchburg. Certainly an audition on both schools, for what may very well be with this new unique scheduling situation where you could be a part of the Chicken Bowl, part of that JV matchup going into Thanksgiving, and then be a part of the varsity meeting in week one, the very next year, which is another one of those unique storylines. And of course, you have your focus on the game at hand here. But I've got to imagine both yourself and Coach Greg Graham are at least going to be markedly interested in what will happen in that JV game and what it means for where your programs get to go next year.
Yeah, I can't wait. The JVs have done a great job this year, and they've played some tough games too. And Coach Jesse Kendall and Brian Lombardo and Jim Witzkel and Greg Navaroli. JC Cora has also helped out with the JV team this year too. And Todd Martin, is also one of our assistant D-line coaches on varsity. He helps out with JV as well. And those guys have done a great job, keeping the kids together, having fun, and going out there and making plays. So I'm really excited to go watch the JVs on tomorrow night, and they're a fun group to be around, a fun group to watch, and hopefully that carries over once they come up to the next level and see who's going to come up and make contributions in varsity next year. Because I think there's some special players in that group, and looking forward to working with them and see how they progress.
Had the opportunity to talk to Jack Rodequins, who is going to be a football Hall of Famer in the Leominster High School Football Hall of Fame as part of the broadcast. And, I was really floored by hearing him talk about what it was like being a child and getting a first opportunity at that time to play youth football, then Pop Warner on Doyle Field in the bowl, and how he felt like from that point each and every culminating moment as they moved forward up through the years, on through JV, and then obviously to their years as varsity athletes. It just felt like this culmination in this city, and the pride and passion in this man's voice for having worn that jersey really, I mean, touches those of us that have been involved in this series for so long in such a special kind of way. How do you translate that for this generation that a lot of them haven't necessarily grown up with that tradition or that investment or being involved with that? Some of them have. How do you make it real for them and their peers and be able to have that feeling? And how important is that JV experience in order to be able to hopefully catapult and launch and get them to understand it?
Yeah, well, these guys have all either played with each other or played against each other in youth sports, whether it be football, basketball, baseball. No matter what it is, there's a lot of good rivalry there, and for the most part, friendly rivalry between both players on both sides here. But you can't grow up in these communities and not know of the game and its importance, even if you don't understand the depths and the tradition of it. Where we do a lot on our team to make sure that guys know that and respect that. You're wearing the number of a guy that came before you, and then you came before him and came before him. Like, these are numbers that have been on this football team. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of memories on this football field, and you play for those guys when you're out here. You play for them, and they're going to play. The next guys that come up after you are going to play for you guys. So it's that sense of brotherhood, the sense of community, sense of togetherness. Even though you never met those people, they went through the same experience that you went through. They've practiced the same amount of time. They've the same blood, sweat, and tears. And anytime that you can connect that and have that shared experience, even with someone that you never met, they know you went through it. There's a bond there, and guys need to know that. They need to understand that, and that's why, playing in this rivalry, playing for either one of these schools is so special.
And to have that opportunity, I'll use this as a transition point to talk a little bit about some of your own Thanksgiving memories. And while it probably should have dawned on me beforehand, it definitely dawned on me a lot when we talked to Fitchburg High School Hall of Famer Todd Stefanides, of course, a former teammate of yours, and of course, then we played the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon game, and it was quite honestly, you were his teammate. He and you were teammates with Greg Graham, who was also teammates with James McCall, and the web just kept going out. It was a very red and gray conversation, but there is this great interconnectivity now among this series, much like we saw historically back when Marco Landon and Huck Hannigan were former Leominster teammates who then coached across town from one another, one in Fitchburg and one in Leominster. We're seeing that kind of retranspire here historically, the great secular part of this, of course, series. But when I look at that and I see that and you feel that part of it, tell me, how does that feel going into this and being involved? And could you have ever imagined when you guys were playing together that this would be the circumstance you'd all find yourselves in?
I could not. No, certainly. It's growing up there. I mean, not until I got married and we had kids and a group of Leominster did I ever, even entertain the thought of coaching. At Leominster High School. So it's not something that I thought of back then. I mean, I knew I wanted to coach. I knew I wanted to do something in that line. But as far as being in this this position and have myself versus Greg and James and it's special. I think it's unique, and I think it's a testament to Ray Kazenza too and the coaching staffs that we had there at Fitchburg High, and they made it a special experience for us. So we wanted, I know that Greg feels the same way, that we want to create that for our guys too, and that's how we're going to carry this tradition on. It felt special. We want to recreate that for our guys and give them something that they can remember for a lifetime, and hopefully win some football games by doing it. And it's extra special when you got, again, talk about that shared experience. Greg and I and James and I and even and Todd, we all played on the same team together. We all went through the same battles together, so we know each other's personalities. We know what makes us tick. We know what's important to each other. And we know how we're gonna come across to our kids too. So it's it's a fun back and forth for sure.
Talk to me about those games in that kind of mid to late 90s that you were involved in. There was some very exciting football games in that era, some that Ray Cosenza himself, when I asked him going into the interview with Todd Stephanides, what, would it be? What stands out to you? He called those games some of the best that he was ever involved in this series. That's high praise when you've been involved in as many as he has been. What about those games stands out to you at this point as you look back on them?
Oh, whenever I get asked this question, it's my freshman year. I didn't play at all my freshman year, but not on varsity anyway. But that game at Doyle, it was the '94 Thanksgiving game. Sorry, no, '93. So it was back and forth. It was Todd Stephanides, Bob Raxasak, Brian Mezzafero, James McCall, Clarence Yarbrough. I think the game was 44-40. Fitchburg won, but it was back and forth. It was big play after big play. Ryan Keenan had like 200 something yards rushing too, and it was just like haymakers every drive. Good kick returns, punt returns, long passes, long runs. It was the game had everything. And for me, being a freshman, watching this all happen with the energy from both sides of the field, I was hooked. And I think those experiences right there are what makes this rivalry so special. You could have a game that could feel the same way and end up 7-0 like we had a couple of years ago. The energy is just as high in a defensive battle like that too. But the excitement and electricity, at Doyle that day, it's something I'll never forget.
You bring up, of course, the variety, right? Where sometimes the games are so high scoring and there's so much offense that it just rolls over the defense in these games. And then there are times where the offense fails to materialize for both schools. And like you said, it's literally who comes out with the 3 points or the 7 points that are going to win the football game that make all the difference. How do we see such vastly different games if you look over the lifespan? I mean, I suppose odds certainly play in our favor. You're going to see, we could keep playing 139 previous times, you're going to see a variety of outcomes, but for them to always seemingly go one way or another, either heavily offensive or incredibly defensively minded, how do we get those teams to the same place at the same time in the same year?
It's the beauty of Thanksgiving time. You got a team that could scoring 40 points a game the whole season long, and now you have 10 weeks worth of either scouting or you've gotten better over that amount of time too, and then maybe you find one play or one formation that does the trick, and and then everything else kind of goes from there. So it's it's really the beauty of Thanksgiving. We talk about anything can happen. Literally anything can happen. I mean, I can't tell you what the game's going to be like. As an offensive guy, I hope we score a lot of points. That's that's what we're going to try to do. And I hope we, defensively, I hope we don't give up any. But you're going to have the ebb and flow in the game, and we just kind of usually the schools, both schools just kind of feel each other out, and they're going to match each other each way. If you don't want to be, in a tight game like that, you don't want to be the coach that calls something that springs something loose, for the other team's offense, so you tend to, there's so much riding on that game and the emotion and the excitement and you don't want to, you make a mistake for your players. Sometimes you tend to call things a little bit more conservative if it's a close game, and then if it cuts away from you, then you got to go the other direction and just take chances all the way across. So I think that's when you see those trends of either tight games or there's a ton of points being scored on both sides. So it's I think it's kind of whatever is trending that day is kind of how it goes.
Yeah, you hope to catch the trend going in the right direction for your school. One more opportunity here to reflect a little bit memory wise. Obviously, we talked about that experience in high school as a freshman. Let's flash forward a few years later. Let's go to your senior year again, and let's just talk a little bit about that final memory, because you're going to have a whole team full of seniors that are going to go through this week and prepare and know that at the conclusion of this game, that's it. You take that Leominster jersey off for the last time. What do you remember about that experience being like for you? How do you want to use that to translate that for your players?
I mean, it's tough to put in the words. It was so special to be out there with, all my friends that I grew up with, and I was able to, make some plays with, some of my best friends I've ever had in my life, and, that we're still, best friends to this day. And, to go out there and, and to execute it well, and to come away with a victory. Those are things that you can go back with and talk with those guys all the time. It's like I said, it's tough to put into words. And just trying to think back to the game, it was a big blur, as you got to go through it. And but it's it's something that you hold on to forever and that you cherish. And I want to make sure that our guys are able to kind of have that memory too.
Certainly appreciate that. I am told that it was a rip-roaring affair when your group got together for Ray Kazenz's retirement. There was a heavy representation there of all the folks that are involved in this conversation that have been name-checked. I am told it was quite a little gathering for conversation, and ribbing was not short in all directions.
No. No. It was like we picked up where we left off, back 20 years ago. It's, but that's what made play there so special. And we all, could all, make fun of each other and kind of give each other friendly ribbing and stuff like that. And we all knew it's, because we all loved each other. It's all, we went through all that stuff together, the off-season workouts and the early morning lifts and all these tough games and, and having success there. That it's just when you see those guys after you haven't seen them in a while, it's you're like a kid again. You go back to right back to 1996, 1997, 1995, whatever it may be, and you pick up right where you were there. And that was a fun night that we had, a football reunion there. And it was great seeing Todd too. I'm sure you talked to Todd Stephanides, and Todd and I both played, quarterback, and Todd was a senior when I was a sophomore. And it was a great player. He just as tough as they come, pound for pound, the toughest kid that we had on the team, and always a clutch player, making plays we needed to. And I looked up to Todd a lot, growing up and playing behind him there at Fitchburg High, and learned a lot of how I felt I should carry myself, and and I still expect that from our players and try to teach that and model that for our players too. But Todd was a great mentor, and guy to have in front of me to to work for there. And we always had a friendly back and forth. And Todd's a great guy, and I really enjoyed that time with him at Fitchburg High too.
And it's a great opportunity to get to bring all that together as part of Recipe for a Classic, coming up 5 to 7 o'clock on Wednesday night, Thanksgiving Eve, November the 24th, AM 1280, 105.3 FM, and WPKZstream.com. And then an encore presentation of Recipe on Thursday, Thanksgiving morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. in place of the morning commute, leading into our live coverage and our countdown to kickoff from Crocker Field at 9 a.m. We'll recap it all for you again coming up in a moment. But Coach, as we wrap up this season-ending edition of the Coach's Corner, let's talk about this 140th meeting, the 115th Thanksgiving Day Classic. Obviously, both teams come in looking to pick up where the game may be left off. If you're Fitchburg in Week 1, you want to keep going. You want that to be the continued trend line for them. If you are on the Leominster side of things, you want your defense more to stand up and push that number down. You want your offense to score more points to draw that game quite a bit closer. What are you looking for in this Thanksgiving Day matchup?
You're just doing what we can to try to slow down their offense and give us a chance, on our offensive side of the ball. You're not going to stop Anthony Aquendo. Their offensive line is, they got the big guys up there. They have a younger quarterback who's getting better each week in terms of they seem to be throwing the ball a little bit more each week. So you do have to account for that. But their team goes through number one, and he's a special player, and it's someone that we're gonna have to account for on every snap with multiple people. And really try to slow down what they want to do. And then on the offensive side of the ball, we have to find something that works for us and tap into it and try to get our speed and our athletes in space. It's really, what is going to give us the best chance to get points on the board. So, and their defense has been stout. They've played some tough teams too. And, they've had games, like the Westfield game, the playoff game, they only let up 7 points. And then they've had games like with Neshoba and Marlboro where, it's whoever has the ball last that's going to score. So we've seen kind of both sides of Fitchburg's defense as well too. And, they're going to be amped up and ready to go. I'm sure they want to come out there and try to pitch a shutout. And, we're going to find something that works against their front or whatever they're going to give us. So, we're going to prepare the best that we think that they're going to, what they're going to give us and, go out there and try to, and give it our best against a very good Fitchburg team.
right back to Crocker Field on the Thanksgiving morning for you. Seemingly, that is the way it is gone, and maybe it is all the more fitting if you think about Crocker Field. And of course, again, coaches have historically struggled from Leominster to figure out strategically how to use that field to their advantage. It's always a little colder. It's always a little windier. It's definitely that way on the visiting sideline. There is a limited locker room for the visiting team at the facility. It is not the Ritz-Carlton if you are coming in on the road to play in that football game. But you uniquely have been home there for, seemingly a large part of your playing career. If you were going to identify maybe a part of Crocker Field that, is somewhere that, you might say, yeah, that's my favorite part. And what can you do to use that favorite part with your football team on Thursday?
Ooh, that's a tough one, Todd. I don't know if I've ever thought about it in that context before, too. But I think just the overall environment of that Thanksgiving morning, right? It doesn't matter what the conditions are. It doesn't matter what the temperature is. Guys are going to be ready to play. I mean, the game is going to happen either way. So, we've played games in all different climates and weather this year, and practice certainly, and all on wet fields and where footing hasn't been great, and we had that game last week too. So I don't think it's anything that our guys haven't seen at all. And it's certainly again, it's Thanksgiving morning. That stuff isn't really gonna matter much in terms of what the conditions are. We're gonna go out there, we're gonna play hard.
I will ask you this again on Thanksgiving Thursday morning, but preview for me. What is the message to your team on the way out the door on a Thanksgiving morning?
Play for each other. This will be the last time you guys are going to be all together as a group for this team. It's the last time Team 127 is going to be together, and we're going to go out there and make a memory and just absolutely go out there and leave everything on the field.
Leominster High School head coach Devin Gates, thank you so much as always for another great edition of the Coach's Corner, and thank you for being with us each and every week and answering the questions and giving the community the information, the inside look at what it takes to coach Team 127 and on from there. We'll see you on Thanksgiving Thursday morning. For those of you joining us on the radio side, it's AM 1280, 105.3 FM, and WPKZ stream the world over. You can take it with you on your smart-enabled device. You can take it with you on your good old-fashioned transistor radio. If you come on out to Crocker Field and be a part of it, as the LHS poet Bob Cross so aptly said, buy a Turkey Day ticket and enjoy the fun. That game kicks off at 10 a.m. Countdown to kickoff live on the radio begins at 9 a.m. with live coverage beginning with kickoff at 10. We'll have it all for you. The pageantry, the drama, the 140th meeting of Leominster and Fitchburg, the 115th Thanksgiving Day Classic. We're looking forward to that. And of course, as we always say, no year, no game, no week begins without your preview right here on the Coach's Corner. For Leominster High School head coach Devin Gates, I am Todd Robbins, saying thank you so very much for joining us. Join us for Thanksgiving coverage in the days ahead. And until then, so long, everybody.